From deep in the Burbank Media District, it's time for another edition of myBurbank Talks. This podcast is presented by the staff of myBurbank. Now, let's see what's on today's agenda as we join our program.
Hi, my Burbank reporter Ashley Erikson here with another episode of Women of Burbank. And I have my friend Loni Grimaldi here. She is a curious, creative teacher, mother, and a researcher. And I am so excited to have you. You also won or were awarded Best Teacher through Burbank Unified School District. So
Yes.
Thank you for coming
Oh,
today.
happy to be here. Happy to be here.
I'm
Yeah.
so excited. So I was today years old when I when I learned that you were a researcher. I know you as a friend
Uh-huh.
and a mom and
Yeah.
a teacher, but you just opened up my whole world and blew my mind. Tell me about these projects you worked on as a researcher.
Yeah. So my first career before teaching was a research scientist, and two of the projects that I did that are most exciting. Well, I'll say the first one is I helped describe a new species of deep sea clam. So
That is the
yeah.
Hold on here. Let's just take a step back. You discovered a new species of deep sea clams.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Did you name it after yourself?
I didn't. I
Oh.
was tempted, but sometimes it's poo-pooed upon. So I named it after a woman who helped me. She's like the clam queen. And she
Oh
knows
my
all about
gosh.
clams. So I dedicated it to her. So I named it Pleocardia krylovata. Her name was Alanna Grimaldi.
That
So,
is incredible.
yeah.
How do you just find a deep sea clam? Like what?
well, you work with deep sea scientists, and every time they go down, if they can catch something, they find something new every single time.
Wow.
So my mentor, Dr. Shauna Gaffretti, she goes down into manned and unmanned submersibles, and they find stuff all the time. And so then to the point where they're like, "Hey, who wants to help us describe these things? This looks no one's ever seen it."
incredible.
Yeah.
How do you even go through like a database of clams and be like, oh yeah, we don't have that one?
Well, the thing about this one that was most it looked different. It had this huge notch in the side that they'd never seen in any other clams before. And when you look at, I think all clams look the same before
Mhm.
this.
Yeah.
But then what's neat about this one too is it has hemoglobin, so it has red blood like us, and it also has no mouth, no real gut, and it has bacteria inside of its gills that it then they do chemosynthesis. So it's like photosynthesis, but instead of using energy from the sun, they use chemicals.
Wow.
Yeah. So
And so when they bring it up, you have to research and figure out the characteristics of
Yeah.
it, the ecology of it, all of that
Yeah.
stuff. That's
So
what you would do.
and then the main thing that tells us it's new, besides just the looks of it, is we sequence the DNA. So
Oh,
sequence the
okay.
DNA of it, and then sequence the DNA of the microbes living inside of
Because
it.
it could be a species that's already existed, but
Right.
maybe just genetically looks different.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay.
Or it could be injury, or it could be
Right.
just, the gene pool of those clams look different than others. So, yeah,
Wow.
it's really neat.
I
It's
will
really neat.
never look at clams the same again. I'm just
Right,
gonna
I
see
know.
your face every time.
Yeah. And when they take them out, they take them in these big cores. So it's like a giant core sample that'll have sediment, and then the clam kind of sits half in, half out, and then water on top. And so they pull that up because, then when you bring it up, you have to wonder too when you're studying stuff in the deep
Mm.
sea, like, is it just going to explode when it comes
From
up,
the
or is it
pressure, yeah.
or the bright lights? Like, what are you doing to it from where it
It's
used
not
to
gonna
be?
look the same
Yeah.
probably up here than it did
Uh-huh.
down there, right?
So a lot of the things stay the same, but you have to always keep that in mind. Like, we're
Mm.
studying this in a artificial setting. Yeah.
That is incredible.
Yeah,
Okay, so
yeah.
that was one of your
Mhm.
projects. What
Then
are the other ones?
another one that I loved was I worked with this animal called Megathera crenulata, which stands for the giant keyhole limpet, and it's endemic to the Southern California, so it's only found in Southern California. It kind of looks like an abalone,
Okay.
and sometimes when seafood restaurants run out of abalone, they actually will use keyhole limpets and cut them up, and they're a little tougher, so I've heard. But yeah, so I described the cell, or found the cell that makes their respiratory pigment, which is hemocyanin, and so it's called rogocytes. And
You just found a cell. You just found a cell in a limpet. I mean,
so it's
here I am doing podcasts and she's discovering clams and limpet
Although,
cells.
it's it only gets the wow factor for about one conversation. And then you're kind of done.
Moving
yeah.
on from limpets.
hmm
Oh, that's
But,
amazing.
Yeah, so and I love I love using microscopes and studying
Mhm.
cells and tissues. So anything I can dissect and then look at it, as long as I can see it, I can see it, and then I can go deeper and deeper,
Mhm.
or smaller and smaller. That's what I really get excited about. So
That's incredible.
yeah.
And you were doing this during your schoolwork?
Yeah, so I got my bachelor's and then I got my master's, and those are my two master's projects.
Oh,
And then after
wow.
that, I went to do more research, and I would help with dissections, and
Mhm.
then I worked at USC Health Science Campus, and we looked at the effects of acetaminophen and alcohol on the the morphology of mitochondria in mouse livers, yeah, which really just means the shape of the mitochondria in mouse livers.
So
That was
painkillers on mouse livers.
and alcohol, and, the rats wouldn't, the mice wouldn't drink alcohol, so they had to make
Mm.
Jello shots in order to, like, get them enough alcohol because they are smart and they don't wanna drink too
Who
much.
would turn down a Jello shot?
So they
Not even the
added
rats.
sugar to it, and then they're
Oh
going for it.
my gosh.
Yeah.
That's some incredible research.
Yeah, really fun
Where
stuff.
how where when in your life were you like, this is what I want to do? Like when did science become the core of you and especially marine life?
Yeah, well, I think living in Southern California, we're so lucky because
Mhm.
we have the ocean and tide pools right here. Or you could go to the mountains. And so from the time I was little, my parents, all the activities we would do would be going to the beach or
Yeah.
going and finding fossils somewhere
Mhm.
like off the side of the road or looking at, meteor showers. And so that has always been something that I found to be so beautiful. And so I think I was really drawn to it because
Yeah.
it's beautiful and interesting and also kind of scary, when you see a sea urchin or you see like a sea anemone.
Yeah.
And so I just get real interested in it. Like those are the real aliens and what are they doing?
And it's something, especially living in Southern California, the tide pools, you know what they are, you see them, but no one knows how they eat. I just know that if you push that anemone thing, it
Right.
squirts
Yes,
water at you. That's
exactly.
all I
Right,
know.
right. And then,
Not to step on the purple ones.
yeah, even when then you do step on them and you're like, why are they covered in rocks? Yeah, I think it's so neat. And, so I went a whole bunch of times before I ever called myself a scientist, obviously.
Mhm.
And, but I think after high school, people started asking me, what are you going to do?
Mhm.
And I just decided I'm going to say science because I didn't have an answer. Um, and then I just kind of kept saying it. And when I
Mhm.
finally decided to get a major, I chose anthropology and I was accepted by a college, but they said they don't have that major anymore. So I chose science. I said, here I go. I'm going
Just
in.
go in, and then
I'm
you
going to go
figured out
in.
what you liked when you went
Yes.
in there.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay, so you went in, you've done all this research, you fell in love with science,
Hmm.
and then that led you to become a teacher,
Right.
a
Yes.
middle school science
Yes.
teacher.
Yeah.
Hardest job in the world, I think, is being a teacher,
Yeah.
especially for middle school kids.
Yeah.
So what was that transition like going from, you know, being educated to being the educator?
Well, I really wanted to teach college. I wanted to be a
Mm.
professor. And but then I decided I didn't want to get my PhD. I kind of wanted to get a family and I didn't want to go back to school for another 5 or 6 years. And so I was I finally decided that I wanted to go get my teaching credential because the labs I worked in, I ended up having roles teaching people how to use microscopes, teaching people to use different techniques, and I loved it. I was good at it, and so it was always really fun. And so I went and got my teaching credential. I said, I'll try it out. I'll see if I like it. It's less school than going for a PhD,
Yeah.
and then I loved it. It was absolutely
So you
incredible.
started at middle school.
Well, I taught college for a semester,
Mhm.
and then but because I didn't have my PhD, I couldn't be tenured and stuff like that. So I taught college and that was really fun. It was totally different though, because people are paying to be there so they could
Mhm.
come or not come and, they could
Right.
be interested or not interested. And
Can't send him to the
yeah,
principal's
you
office.
just in the principal's office, exactly. But also then you're trying to get more enthusiasm out of them. If it's like a morning class, they're tired. So um, yeah, I I did my student teaching in middle school and I fell in love with it. I had an incredible
Mhm.
mentor, Mr. Moss. And then I did some more student teaching in high school. And I liked high school too. They're like between eighth grade and ninth grade, they're not that different,
Mhm.
but they also are extremely different because I feel
Yeah.
like, you grow more in your young teens than you do ever in your life besides basically infancy, right? So, I fell in love with middle school. I thought it was weird and it's just where I wanted to be.
The most awkward stages of
Yes.
life
Yes.
happen in middle
Uh-huh,
school.
exactly.
So what grades do you teach? What topics do you cover?
I've taught 6th, 7th, and 8th, and recently last year, and then I taught all 6th. So in 6th grade, we do integrated science. There's new NGSS standards now in California, and so we do earth science, life science, and physical science in all three grades.
Wow.
And so in 6th grade, we start with investigation, and then we looked at heat and energy, and then we go into seasons, and then we go into nutrition, cells and bodies, heredity, human impact, and then we usually end the year with um, human reproduction.
But we're going to get to
Yes.
that later. So out of all those subjects that you teach, is there anything that's like your favorite thing to teach, or the one that the students love to hear the most?
Yeah, I think, science is real fun because you can do hands-on stuff.
Yeah.
So whenever we're doing that, they love it, and they always, they'll thank me for the lesson of the day, and that,
Aw.
that feels amazing. I
Yeah.
think my favorite project we do though is we build solar ovens out of pizza boxes.
Okay.
And
Yes.
yes.
So my son was in your class.
Yes.
And we did make that with the
Yes.
Domino's box,
Uh-huh,
and we heated
right.
our pizza up. It
Yeah.
was really cool.
Yeah, it's really fun. I mean, you bring chocolate in, everyone's in,
So fun.
intrigue, the enthusiasm, and then you're just thinking, am I really going to be able to cook something using the sun? And so it's super fun. Yeah.
Yeah, I
think
love that. I
that's-
love that hands-on stuff. So
Yeah.
you and I, not only are we big science lovers, but we've known each other since the age that you're teaching.
Yes.
Since middle
Yes,
school, we've been
absolutely.
friends.
Uh-huh.
And I just wanted to share a funny story because I just feel like it is the epitome of you and I.
Yes.
And we were going to a bachelorette party in Vegas, and we drove out there together, and we stayed at my parents' house because we were tired and old ladies and have children and would like to go to bed early. So everybody went out partying, and we went to bed.
hmm
And we got up early, and we went down to the Luxor and went to the human bodies
we
exhibit
did.
like the nerds that we are.
Yes.
While
Yes.
everyone was passed out.
It had the best time.
So much fun.
So cool. It was
Yeah.
really fun to go with you,
Oh
and
my
we
gosh.
got to see everything and
All the parts of the
interact.
body.
Yes, and do all of it, and took so many pictures, and I still use some of those pictures in my classes now when we're
Yeah.
talking about different body systems, and it's thrilling.
Oh my
It's
gosh.
an incredible process to
Highly
see.
recommend
Yeah,
going to see that.
definitely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, really
So
neat
I just
stuff.
love, like, every time I think of you, I just think of that moment.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, that's fun. Well, I'm glad. That's a good one.
Yes. Yeah. So, and I'm as a parent of a middle schooler, I know that the grade that you teach is extremely difficult.
Yeah.
So, how do you maneuver through these awkward kids? I mean, this is when kids are acting out the behavior problems. They're growing out of being a kid, but they're not quite mature. How do you handle that?
Yeah, I wish I had one answer, but I sure don't. And sometimes I don't have the answer at all. But what I found that works the best is anything preventative you can do. So
Mm.
we base our class with like meaningful relationships, and they know my preferences, and we get it to where it's funny. We talk about like the way of the Grimaldi, like you've got to do this the way of the Grimaldi, and,
You're like Master
and
Yoda.
get everyone on board. But when it comes down to discipline, it could be different for any different kid on any different day.
Mm.
So really you have to think, who's the kid? What's happening? Is it before lunchtime when we're
Yeah.
angry? Is it at the end of the day? What am I asking them to do? Have they not been here for a couple weeks? And then literally every day I remind myself that I'm working with kids whose brains aren't developed yet.
Yeah.
And that helps me not take things personally and like get down on their level and
Yeah.
try to go back and forth.
Like apply the scientific method to
Right.
like figure out what's going on with
yeah.
them.
And I have to say, you know what? We're experiencing this moment totally different. They're not trying to disrespect me right now.
Yeah.
And sometimes you say that, you're like, I don't think you're trying to disrespect me right now. And they'll be like, no, that's not what I was doing. And you're like, well, it's exactly what you were doing. But but I'm glad that it wasn't the intention. So let's
Aw.
figure it out. Yeah.
This is such an impactful time in kids' lives. I feel like this is where they're really figuring out who their friends are, who their groups are, what they like and don't like.
Yeah.
And I think teachers are such an important part of this
Right.
age. So you're really making an imprint for their whole future, you
Yeah.
know?
There's so much change, they're going middle school is really a neat middle time because they're not little kids anymore and they're not teenagers, but
Mhm.
on any given moment they can be part that. So you might see kids outside playing tag and then all of a sudden trying to look cool and impress people, or, be able to have some really inspirational critical thinking about something. And,
Ah.
it blows me away on what they can come up with and the ideas that they have, whether they're crazy or they're really cool.
I spent one day in your classroom,
Yes.
and I was exhausted. I don't know how you do it, but you are so good with the kids, and they're responsive, and they were so polite, and they
Yeah.
asked questions, and it was a great experience. So, yeah,
Yeah.
you're doing a killer job.
Well, that was a super fun day.
That
Anytime
was a
you can
fun
bring
day.
animals into the classroom.
Yes. Yeah.
It was really cool.
I mean, it was a little heavy topics. We talked
Yeah.
about, animal trading and stuff, but
Uh-huh.
they were really in it. And
Yeah.
yeah, who's going to turn down a snake in the classroom?
Right. They did a good job.
Yeah.
They did a really good job.
Well, we're going to take a quick break and hear a message from our sponsor, and then we will be right back.
Discover your dream home in the captivating city of Burbank. Introducing you to Mike McDonald and Marianne Bean, Burbank area specialists. With over 3 decades of combined experience, Mike and Marianne have the privilege in assisting numerous clients in finding their perfect homes in and around Burbank. They understand each of their clients' unique needs and provide personalized guidance. As Compass Realtors, they leverage cutting-edge technology and stay informed about market trends to maintain an edge in the dynamic real estate landscape. Discover why they've earned the reputation as the go-to agents for all your Burbank real estate needs. Reach out to them today at 818-266-9766 and start a conversation. Disclaimer, Mike McDonald and Marianne Bean are licensed real estate agents, license numbers 01004729 and 020-44937, with Compass, an independently owned and operated real estate brokerage firm. The California Department of Real Estate oversees real estate licensing and the activities of real estate agents in California.
All right, we're back. Thank you to our sponsor for that message. So you're a teacher at Luther Burbank Middle School.
Mhm.
We talked about how difficult this age is, but not difficult for you because you were just named best teacher through Burbank Unified.
Right. So it's easy for me.
She's like, I got this in the bag. It's not a problem. But you were named top at Luther first. It's
Mhm.
like a whole process.
Yes,
I had
right.
no idea.
Yeah.
So who votes? Is this a nomination?
Starts with the staff. Yeah. So
Okay.
staff nominated. And then after that, it's a panel at the district.
Wow. So you went from Luther. All of the top teachers then went to district.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you are 2023 Teacher of the Year.
Yes.
It's so incredible.
Yeah, it's really cool.
How did you feel when you first found out? How did they tell you?
They told me by walking into my room with roses. So, I mean, that's amazing.
Gosh.
That's really fun. So yeah, that was a total surprise, and my students loved it because they were in there, so they liked to be a part of that moment as well. And I
Yeah.
just smiled awkwardly for as long as I could until they left. No, it was great. But yeah, I was thrilled, absolutely thrilled. Honored to be nominated by my colleagues, and then just so appreciative, honored, and really thrilled to go to the next level. And
Wow.
so
So now you're going to county.
yes.
LA County.
So I submitted an application to the LA County for LA County Teacher of the Year,
Wow.
and we haven't heard anything back yet.
Okay.
So
Okay.
hopefully in the next month or two.
And then what happens? Do you go
Then
state?
it would be state and then nation.
Wow.
Here I come.
Lonnie is coming for the nation, and I believe
And
it.
then
She
the
discovered
world.
limpets and clams and gave alcohol shots to rats. I mean, give her the dang award. Oh my God. So on top of winning all of that, you were also named myBurbank's Best.
Yeah.
So we have through at myBurbank, we have a contest that we run every year, and you got nominations for Best Middle School. And I was like, guess what, Lonnie? You won my
Yes.
Best. She's like, oh, thanks. I have already won Best.
Well, I was just thinking, is
Best
this
of
the same
Burbank.
thing? Because I don't know. It was just,
And they just keep coming. People love
Yeah.
you so much. You're
This
my
was the
son's
year.
favorite
Yeah.
teacher.
he's my favorite student
Great.
That's
Do you hear
awesome.
that, everyone listening?
until I get the next one.
Yeah. Until Riley comes,
Right, yeah.
he's going to tear it up. You're going to be sending him back out the door. So I want to go back to your teaching real quick because
Yeah.
you did mention reproductive science.
Yes.
Something that you teach, right?
Mm-hmm.
And what grades does that cover? What topics do you guys cover?
So in 6th and 7th grade, we do like a human sexual anatomy at the or sexual like reproduction at the end. In 6th grade, we call it puberty talk,
Okay.
and it's shorter. And then in 7th grade, it's called teen talk, and it goes a little bit more in depth. And really, in 6th grade, the point is to see like how do we navigate these concepts in a classroom?
Mhm.
What do we do when we start laughing? What do we do? When
There's a lot of laughter.
we want to put our head down, or how do we ask questions about this stuff and do it appropriately?
Aw.
So it can be really interesting topics. But I think the main thing that we do is we try to present information and then tell students, you take this home, talk it over with your parents, your guardians, and see how does this fit into your values.
Yeah.
And so I think when that's the message, it can really be a good place for students to get information,
Yeah.
and then go home and see, what part of this, how do I handle this in my life?
Yeah. I'm sure you've seen it all. I mean, all the different reactions from students,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And at open house and back to school night, I always tell my the parents and the guardians of my students, you can absolutely see any of the material ahead of time. You
Mhm.
can opt out if that's where your values are. However however this fits into your life is what I'm not the parent, I'm the
Right.
teacher, and so I want to make sure that they know that's their role and what my
Yeah.
role is as well. Yeah.
Well, speaking of being a parent,
Mhm.
when you started teaching, you were not a parent,
Right.
and now you are.
Mhm.
You have two children,
I do.
two young
Two
ones.
little offspring. Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness. So, how has that transition as being a teacher to now being a mom and a teacher?
Yeah, I actually had a student last year ask me if becoming a mom changed how I taught. And in the moment, I was
Mm.
like, no, not at all. And then that night, all I could do is think, like, why did I say that? Oh my gosh, it's completely changed how I teach. So I went back the next day and I said, hey, you remember when you asked me that? I go, actually, it changed everything on how I teach. It gave me a lot more grace
Yeah.
for myself and for students. It made me see them as whole people a lot more, and just really appreciate that, wow, the level I teach at is so different than the kids I have at home that
Mhm.
are about to be 2 and a 4-year-old. And so it's just neat to see what they're capable of and how much they do grow. And
Yeah.
I have a saying in my classroom, don't do for students what they can do for themselves, which I got from a professor in college. And it's so neat because if you show them how to do something, they can do it. They
Yeah.
can do so much more than we think they can. And so it's really neat. You can show them one time, like, hey, this is how I turn on the projector. Will you do that now for me? They're like, yes, I will. So
That's
yeah,
amazing.
really cool. Or if you have a computer issue, I say, who's techie? Come and
Yeah.
help. But yeah, so definitely uh, being a parent completely changed how I teach, and no homework. They've got a lot going on, and they always
Yeah.
have homework in math and English. And so I figure if we can get stuff done in class,
Yeah.
where I can see them doing it, I think that's better than them
Yeah.
going home and trying something
100%.
else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm the worst when it comes to my kids' homework. I'm gonna be honest. I'm like, we got stuff to do, guys.
Right.
It's you just spent 8 hours at school.
Yes,
We're not doing this.
exactly. And also you're learning when you're at home too,
Yeah.
So I think that as long as learning is the goal, you don't want to kill that spirit. And I
Yeah.
think, you have to be careful with that ratio.
You don't want them to
homework and
hate
kids.
school
Right.
and hate education.
Or just be trying to complete something for a grade and not because
Yeah.
they care about it or see how it fits into their life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's important, especially for kids. It was something that really stuck out to me when I went to Tyler's open house. It was the English class, and kids could write on Post-it notes something they wish they wanted their parents to know.
Oh, wow.
And so I was reading all these Post-it notes, and
Uh-huh.
I'd say maybe 90% of them said, "I wish my parents knew how hard school is.
Right.
I wish I knew how much pressure there was on me, how much work there is to get done." And that was like just an eye-opening thing. Like they're going through puberty, and they're
Right.
dealing with friends,
Yeah.
and they've got sports and all these things. And in the grand scheme of education, like this isn't going to go on your college transcript. This is where you're really learning how to be a student,
Right.
how
Yeah.
to be a citizen of the school, and how to take care and be responsible. This is where their real responsibility comes into place.
Yeah.
So it was just a little heartbreaking to see so many kids that were so stressed out from
Yeah.
school, you know?
And I think it's easy to get in our, tunnel vision on our own perspective. Like, well, I would do this and I would come home and I would prioritize and I'd do that first and that first. It's like they don't know how to do that. They're just learning how to
Yeah.
prioritize stuff and what to do, and learning that if they come home and do their homework right away, that might be something that works for them. But some kids need a break right after school and they can, they're
Mhm.
better at it later, or they need a snack or whatever it is. So
Yeah.
they really are learning all those organizational skills. And really, I think one of the biggest skills they're learning in middle school is self-advocacy. They don't know how to advocate for themselves, to even just ask a question. The amount of times students are like, I didn't want to ask, I didn't want to ask the
Yeah.
teacher. I didn't do it. They don't turn in a project because they never wanted to say they didn't know what to do.
Yeah, it's such a different world coming from elementary to middle school, just as a parent.
Yeah.
Because it's parent driven in elementary school.
Uh-huh.
The PTA and the programs, and I'm going for my second round of PTA presidency. Woohoo! Yeah, so
They lucked out.
tired. My last year, but it is really parent driven, and then you get to middle school, and it's like they're on their own.
Mhm.
They don't need the parents anymore. It's driven by the students, by ASB. And that first year of middle school was really difficult, just like learning how to organize the 6 classes and when things were due. And
Absolutely.
they grow up, so fast in that
So
first
fast.
year.
Yeah, well, that's what's so neat about teaching six too, is when they come in, they're big fifth graders, and when they leave, they're seventh graders, and there's so much growth. And
Yeah.
not just in like their physical beings and their haircuts and how tall they get,
They grew like a
but
foot that
like
year.
also just mentally, how
Yeah.
much they grow. It's really fun. It's neat to be a part of that, and to get to witness it. Like as a mom, you get to see your own kids grow up. And get to see the magic they have over
Yeah.
different things. And so it's neat to be able to see that at this age,
Yeah.
see where does the magic still come in. And
And you've got the ins on like what's cool. I feel like I'm so behind on the words that they're using, and I try to throw them out, and they just tell me stop. Don't say that.
Right.
That's not the right context. So you must know all of it.
well, they do that to me too. I listen and then I just walk by and I try to copy it, and they tell me immediately that I'm doing it wrong. And so sometimes when I see a trend coming through, like dabbing or water bottle flipping, all that I have
Oh,
to do is
yeah.
I do it one time.
Killed it.
It's done.
Killed it.
No one does it anymore.
Ruined bottle
Yeah,
flipping,
right,
Lonnie.
yeah. Or then I'm like, hey, let's make some science out of this. What do you think? Would it be easier to flip it if it's
Mm.
low or if it's high? And then we get them thinking about it. I'm like, yeah, let's go outside and bottle flip.
Oh my
Let's
gosh.
do it. And
This
then
is
it's fun.
why you're
That's
teacher
why.
of the year. 100%. I'm like, stop, go in the bottle.
Yeah.
So when your kids will be in middle school, you'll be like, you're game for them. You will know all the things. You'll be
Is
in
that
with
how it
them.
works?
I don't know.
I don't think so. Because it's like when you're a parent, you're doing everything for the first time.
Yeah.
With this age group, and students. Also, I'm not their parent, like I'm their teacher. And so that's my role there. And I say, like, let me be your teacher. Let me teach you some stuff. But I've done some lessons 40 times. So it's like I've gotten to be able to practice and get better.
Yeah.
Where when I'm doing lessons with my students at home, it's my first time every time,
Yeah.
And so you never get to be like, oh, this worked well, or I'll ask this question instead, and kind of get to optimize
No second
that.
chances when you're
Yeah,
parenting.
you're just figuring it out as you go.
Yeah.
So, both are definitely wild rides. Yeah.
And how is it being with kids all day and then going home to your kids? How are you not so tired?
I am born with like a supernatural energy, which is one
Are
thing.
you one of those people that don't drink coffee and are so
I
naturally?
don't drink coffee.
See? I
I
knew
just
it.
yeah. I when I do drink coffee, you better watch out because everything's going at
You're like that little
warp
squirrel
speed.
on
Yes.
Ice Age, just like running around the world.
Exactly. But I think that helps me with this age group because their energy's out of control too. So we can kind of keep up with each other in a fun way. But I'll tell you, sometimes when I go home, I'm like, it's so different because we can slow down so much since
Yeah.
the things we're talking about are they're like, my daughter's seeing ants for the first time and like, whoa, we're following a trail and the whole world just slows down. Or my son today was talking about like, why is your car shining like that? Oh, I think it's because of the sun, and so it's
Oh.
like I'm like, yes, it's
You're at a
because of the
really
sun.
fun age with your
Yeah,
kids. Like this is
yeah.
where they really are excited
Mhm.
and curious.
Yes, and
And all the things of the world you get to share with
so
them.
many questions. Yeah.
Oh,
How does
so
this
fun.
eat? How does that eat? How does that poop? Like how does a
All
mermaid poop? All this stuff. But yeah, what I'll tell you also that sometimes when I'm at work, I get way more accolades than at home because, like I said, I've done that more. And so they'll be
Yes.
saying, "Thank you for the lesson." And then you get home and they're like, "I don't want to eat meatballs," or whatever. And you're like,
Why can't I
"Oh,
get Mom of the Year at the
no."
house? What is
Exactly.
going
I
on?
was like, "Oh man, Mom of the Year, that's what I want." So yeah, Teacher of the Year is great, but the energy levels are so different. I
Yeah.
don't know what it's going to be like when my kids are in middle school and I'm teaching the same age. Like that will be have me back.
Yeah. We will see you in 10 years.
Yes. But yeah, it's so different right now that you just keep going, but you also
Yeah.
have different duties. You're cooking,
Yeah. Yeah.
eating, which always makes everything better, just
Yeah.
snacks.
I just don't know how. I mean, I did a couple classes, like, just helping out and saying the same thing to like 5 classes in just one day.
Yeah.
I was like, never again. Never again. I'm so bored with hearing myself talk right
Oh
now.
man, well see then for me I'm like, "Oh, I get to do it again." And then I'm like, "What can I make better?" And then by the end of the day the lesson's going so short cuz I've cut out all the stuff that doesn't work. And I'm like, "Oh, we're behind
need
in the
that,
first
don't
class
need
and
that.
this class we're so far ahead." And they're getting, a much optimized, more
Yeah.
fun version of the class. But I do have to stop and say, "Did I already tell you this?" And then what's terrible is when half the class says yes and half says no and you're like, "Oh, no one knows."
What day is it?
Let's
Where
start
are
over.
we?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, you're out for the summer.
Yeah.
And you get to be on the schedule with your kids, which is going to be
Yes.
amazing.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
do you have any fun things you're doing this summer?
Right after like a week after school got out, I went to Kauai and I haven't traveled anywhere
Wow.
since 2020. So that was huge for me.
Yeah.
I was just, it was paradise. I love Hawaii and
Yeah.
got to go snorkeling and
Did you find any clams?
no clams. I did see an eel and I've never swam faster.
That's what you're swimming away
Yes,
from?
an eel. Yeah.
Wow.
But then saw turtles and maybe there were some monk seals that it got a little close
That's
to. Yeah,
terrifying.
that's terrifying.
That is very
And they
terrifying.
kept making these vocalizations and I would think it was someone sneezing or, just get scared. But yeah, it was really cool. So got to see some waterfalls and
Aw.
chickens and that was fun because then we got to say bok bok every time we see a chicken. So
Are Hawaii chickens cooler than American chickens? Or California
what
chickens?
is cool about them is they're everywhere. So if we went outside right now, there would be chickens.
They're
at the
like
gas
crows?
station, there are chickens. Yeah, because they have no natural predators. So hunting's allowed every single day.
You can just take a chicken from the road and then just like cook it?
wild boars. Yeah, because there's so many, they have to control the population.
Holy moly.
Where the other islands have predators, but Kauai doesn't. And so
What
there's
predators are on the other islands?
I don't exactly know. I should.
Can't even think of what could be on there.
Snakes.
Oh yeah, I guess I could eat a.
Also, a boar. I don't know. I'm getting out of my element
Yeah.
real fast.
Go back to the
Google it.
water. Go back to the water real quick. Well, thank you so much for coming. It was so amazing to have you on. And congratulations for being Teacher of the
Yes,
Year.
well, thank you for having me. And it's always a pleasure to get to hang with you. So I'm so happy.
Well, thank you guys for listening to another episode of Women in Burbank, and I will see you in the next episode.
My Burbank Talks would like to thank all of my Burbank's advertisers for their continued support. Burbank Water and Power, Cusimano Real Estate Group, Providence St. Joseph Medical Center, Burbank Chamber of Commerce, UME Credit Union, Tequila's Cantina and Grill, UCLA Health, Gain Credit Union, Community Chevrolet, Media City Credit Union, Eric Garcia of Farmers Insurance, Providence High School, UPS Store on 3rd Street, and Hill Street Cafe.